Good afternoon, everybody. This is Art Shit with the show Let's Be Reasonable. And of course, I'm going to take a couple minutes to talk about the Supreme Court here in this 14th Amendment case. So I wanted to start this conversation by pointing you to one Louis Brandeis. He is an attorney that became a justice, not Chief Justice, but a Supreme Court justice. And I guess I'll just point you to it here in the article. He was a progressive champion of federalism and the first person to characterize the states as laboratories of democracy. And of course, this has been picked up by conservatives and libertarians today. People like Ted Cruz. You have quotes from even the six justices in certain arenas where they are noted to have quoted one Louis Brandeis in that statement. So when discussing the 14th Amendment, I know everybody, you've heard about the hearing that took place last week. Of course, this is Sunday, the following week, but you heard about the hearing that took place last week before the Supreme Court. And I had a couple of takeaways. I had to wait a few days in order to review it myself. I didn't listen to all 2 hours or so. I listened to about 50 minutes. And here are some of the takeaways that I came away with. One, uh, when you're arguing such a case before the Supreme Court, I think that you want somebody arguing that case who's had a history of arguing before the Supreme Court. I mean, I know that the Solicitor General from the state of Colorado was the person who brought the case. However, I think that they probably should have picked someone else. I'm not saying he did a bad job, but when you got somebody on the other side of the Trump attorney, there was clearly rapport between the Trump attorney and the justices. You didn't hear that rapport in the remarks that were made between the Supreme Court justices and the Solicitor General from California. So that's one thing. Bring your best gun. All right. Number two, the court seemed to be more interested in the politics as opposed to the two other major aspects, one being precedents, and then, of course, the Constitution. So they seem to be anchored more toward the politics around the issue. In other words, why should we get involved in trying to solve a political question when this should be the decision of the American people? All right, so I thought that was very interesting, and probably does lean more so toward calling this case for the Trump team. And of course, when you look at Section 3 of the Constitution of the 14th Amendment, that's my next point. You have to see exactly how it does read. It's important that we kind of go back at that one more time and take a look at it. So I'm going to flip back up here. When you look at Section 3, there are actually two main points that I come away with. And I said this in a video earlier, that when you read the language here, this language, there's two things that jump out at me. One, you don't see that this actually says anything about the president or vice president. They mention it only with regard to the electors of the president and vice president. They don't mention the president nor the vice president in this piece. The other part is that but Congress may vote 2/3 of each house to remove such disability. The disability in this case would be a person who is, an insurrectionist. So now, do you see the court making that decision? And I kind of do. I think that they're not going to worry so much as to, they'll say that uh, he is, even though he's not mentioned by name or the presidency isn't mentioned, he is included. But I think that the remedy that they will seek to hang their hat on is the fact that the court sees the Congress as the arbiter party responsible for making that decision. And I don't see Congress with 2/3 of a body seeking to remove a sitting president in this particular fashion. So I think that I'll call this one for the Trump team. And the other part is, I mean, this is probably my last point and probably my biggest point. No, I got two more points really. this group of Supreme Court justices, especially those of the conservative side, so the 6 votes that are there, they have a history, like I said, of settling on the Ninth and the 10th Amendment, the Louis Brandeis version, settling on the Ninth and 10th Amendment in order to allow the state to make the decision. But when I hear them interested more so in the politics as opposed to what's precedence, which I got to tell you, there's not much in the way of precedence here. So you're just looking at the language of the 14th Amendment and trying to get into the, I guess you would say, the framers' head and determining how to view this. I think they're still left with Congress being the remedy for solving such that disability. All right. So that being the case, now a lot of people will be upset on the left, I should say, about the decision. But I think that it's probably, if it goes late, it probably will be more of a 9-0 decision. I think that they'll bring the other 3 justices along. If it is decided, we get a decision sometime between between now and April, I'm going to tell you it's going to be a 6-3 decision. So it will be seen as more political, and that will be a very interesting piece. Now, I'll tell you that I do take issue with Trump sometimes when he says that this is a witch hunt. My issue is that the people in Colorado who are bringing this case are Republicans. And that's, there's a theme that runs deep here. And when you talk about Republicans, you call them the deep state, right? When I'm thinking about Trump and MAGA and the rest of it, you call it the deep state because Comey was a Republican. All of these things that you can point to that Trump has an issue with, that he blames on Democrats, you look at Republicans and say, man, this is Republican on Republican fire that Democrats just kind of get murked up into because it's just good cannon fodder. Right. So, but at the end of the day, Trump is on the ballot because of the RNC. And the RNC did not want to buck MAGA. But, a lot of people should say or would say that they probably should have. However, they didn't. So, it became everybody's problem when the RNC proved to be ineffective in, choosing who can run for office. So what we did learn from this is that the RNC doesn't care if you're a criminal. They don't care if you've been impeached twice. They don't care that they don't care what your allegations are, your even the cases that have not gone your way civilly. They don't care. So I guess that's okay. I don't personally. That's their decision. They are inflicting this on the American people. But, me as a minority, doesn't matter what the hell I think anyway. So when you think about it, the decision will be made. He will be on the ballot, and it will be Biden versus Donald Trump. I still say picking Nikki Haley, a lot of Republicans would hate this, but she's a much better candidate than Donald Trump. You may hate her because she's saying things bad about your candidate, Donald Trump, but you can't say that she's lying. When you speak to Republicans on their own and they talk about Trump, the first thing out of their mouths they don't like him on Twitter, and they don't like the way he talks. But, they like the fact that he's seen as a winner. Because if you look back over the past, 7 years or so, midterm after midterm, after presidential election, this guy has lost a lot. And I would think that they would get tired of losing, but I guess this is what Republicans call winning. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the 14th Amendment case. Again, I do think that if it does come back early, it's a 6-3 decision. If it goes late into June, it's probably a 9-0 decision. But Trump does get the victory here. The next thing on the docket for Trump will be him responding to the presidential immunity piece. If he petitions the Supreme Court, that probably happens tomorrow. So we'll probably see that happen relatively early, I would imagine. But anyway, so that's my thoughts for today. I think that he gets the victory, and I think the American people will be a little upset about it. But hey, guess what, folks? It is what it is until it ain't. So don't cry over spilled milk. Just make sure you're ready for the next battle. So that's all I have for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I look forward to doing it again later. Bye.